When I was sitting on the road after we were all cuffed, after they had shot into the vehicle, I looked up and I had seen LaVoy just laying there. I didn't want to believe that he was dead. I didn't want to believe that any of this was real. Finally, they told us to get up, and they took us over to this white van and told us to sit in the back of the van. They drove down to where the first traffic stop had been, and they put Mark McConnell, Ammon Bundy, Brian Payne, and Buddha in the van with us. Shauna and I began to tell the men what had happened. Ammon started crying. I knew he was close to LaVoy, and he just put his head down, and he was pretty silent for most of the time that we were in there together. They did take me back to the sheriff's department. There were 2 FBI agents waiting in this room for me. They started asking me what happened. I told them my family had been at the refuge and that I was there, and I kept asking about my family. I was afraid that they had also been stopped the same way we were and shot at. I didn't know if any of my siblings were dead or if my mom was dead or what was going on with them. One of the FBI agents told me that my family had made it to John Day, and that was a relief for me. They finally told me, well, you're not under arrest, you're being detained. If you want, you can call your mom and you can ask her to come pick you up. I tried to call my mom and she didn't answer, but I got a call from a different number and it was my mom. And I was pretty much just sitting there shaking and crying, and my mom was crying on the phone. The FBI agents kept asking me where my mom was, and my mom didn't want to say where she was or who she was with at the time. She told me later that she was afraid that they were tracking her and using me to do that. She hung up the phone after only a couple minutes of speaking with me and told me to hang on, that they would send someone to pick me up. Finally, I think that the FBI just got frustrated with the fact that I was not talking, and they said, we're going to drop you off at McDonald's, and if your mom wants to come pick you up, that's where she can pick you up from. And they ended up dropping me off at Safeway instead. They gave me this card with a number on it and said, if you don't get picked up in an hour, give us a call back and we can come get you. They drove off, and I just walked into the Safeway there.
I came up to Susie's, and Susie and I were sitting here. I get a phone call from a friend in John Day who was at the meeting in John Day. And she said that she was there with the mother of a girl who was in the car with LaVoy Finicum. They said her mom can't get back to Burns to pick her up because they had the highway closed. Would you mind going and picking up this girl from the sheriff's office until her mom could get back to Burns in the morning? So I called and I talked to the jailer. Then I got transferred a couple times. The sheriff's deputy calls back and said, the FBI said that they dropped her off at Safeway. At Safeway?
I couldn't get a hold of my mom. I couldn't get a hold of anyone. Finally, a cashier came outside. She asked me if everything was okay, and I said that I was okay, that I was waiting for someone to try to come pick me up.
And we got down there and, you know, it was below zero. I had talked to Victoria Sharp's mom, never seeing Victoria. We couldn't find her in the parking lot. We went running into Safeway. The teller said, are you looking for a young girl? And I said, yes. She goes, oh my gosh, follow me. And we went running through Safeway, and here was Victoria in the back room of Safeway. She stood up and I said, Victoria, and I said, your mom's on the phone. I handed her the phone. She kind of collapsed. I mean, she looked like she'd been drugged behind a truck. We got her to Susie's. She came in. She was coughing because of the tear gas.
So we got there, and then I went to get a shower, and I talked to Susie for a while. She was very sweet, and she gave me a set of clothing.
Susie was getting her clothes because she didn't have any clothes. So I think I remember you saying, here's some socks. Susie said, here's some socks. They belong to my husband. He's in prison. He won't be needing them for a while. The Oath Keepers and the Pacific Patriots and the 3%ers decided the best thing to do was probably get her out of the state. My friend with the Pacific Patriots and I drove all night and got her out of the state. What was kind of funny was we got a couple hours down the road, and my friend and I were talking to Victoria, and I said something about, you have Dwight Hammond socks on. And she stopped and she said, "Was that Susie Hammond?" I said, "Yeah, that was Susie Hammond. You're wearing Dwight's socks." The FBI had a press conference that next morning. After the press conference, I had Victoria Sharp's audio recording of her experience, and I played it to all the media that would listen. I said, "This is what this girl said happened." The way it played out, nobody needed to die over this.
And to think, that I was going to die in the next couple minutes at the hands of our government, it's a reality check of what our government is like.